In most, if not all Fallout games, a lot of interesting details and nods are on the smaller side of things, so that's why today we will explore some of the best tiny details on the game. For starters, do you remember the Institute victims? Covenant. Ah, the Institute, that cold blood faction, a lot of issues and a lot of advances too, but that's not the point. If you've interacted with the Covenant in-game, you probably know the drill. They're an unusually safe and prosperous community, a haven from the wastes that's almost suspiciously perfect. Imagine finding a perfect oasis in the middle of the desert, an illusion or a trap, or maybe you are that lucky. The idyllic little paradise is made up of people brought together by their shared loss at the hands of the Institute. To be fair, is one of the best reasons I could think of, and actually a good zone to explore as in typical Fallout fashion, has a lot of contextual story and glimpses here and there of diverse events, but at the same time that can also be the reason they're a willing front for something darker, and oh boy, for a small settlement that is dark. We are, of course, talking about the human being, for calling her in some way, Dr. Chambers and her attempts to find a foolproof process to detect synths, currently sitting at a whooping 80% false positive rate. Cool, right? The funny part is that when you start talking about it, if you didn't explore enough, and only have the information that she provides, then it actually can start to sound reasonable. Yeah, that's right, but only until you reach the minimal and almost imperceptible topic of kidnapping and torturing random people to further refine the testing part. Yeah, now that is not everything. In one of those attempted experiments lies a multiple choice test that our sole survivor has to answer to enter the settlement. A bit Jigsaw style, if you let me say it. The questions are random and nonsensical to newcomers, but for any Fallout 3 players, this test will seem very familiar. A cool nod, but at the same time, if you don't have a relatively speaking fresh run, then maybe you will be like me with a monkey with symbols on the brain all the test. For those with the need of knowing, it's basically a modified version of the Vault-Tec General Occupation Aptitude Test, or GOAT, exam for short. Yeah, a nod to the very beginning of Fallout 3. For those that didn't play it, this was the test that our boy the Lone Wanderer had to fill inside Vault 101 during the beginning of the game, and lore-wise was the means of choosing their stats, perks, well basically your in-game way of building your character as the machine of the Doctor in New Vegas, or the test on the beginning of Fallout 4. This, of course, is an interesting detail, but it goes even further, and that is kind of why I like this series. Follow me up. If you kill Dr. Chambers' bodyguards and examine their armor, you can see that they're rusted sets of Vault-Tec security armor still bearing the Vault-Tec logo. While it's possible that Andale Light just bought the armor in bulk due to it being cheap, the fact that the GOAT was exclusive to Vault 101 raises some very strange questions, the answers of which still remain unclear even 8 years later, and that's the magic of this. An unsolved mystery that nods to a past game in a small settlement that you got to by chance. Now imagine meeting a raider that has actual emotions besides being lost with Psycho. Want to know more? The Morning Raider. The Raiders, those dudes that are among the most common combatants in the Commonwealth, having the sole purpose of existing as a danger early on, a nuisance in the mid-game, and cannon fodder near the end, but still humans after all. Yeah, I was surprised too, but while tearing through scores of them is admittedly fun, this particular encounter is a bit more sobering. Is it easy to lose it, or ignore it as you shoot? First think later so. Good thing that we got you, huh? If you walk just to the right of the Jalbert Brothers disposal yard, down near the train tracks, you will find an unnamed raider sitting beside an open grave containing a second dead raider. There's no dialogue, no notes, no larger story here, just a wastelander grieving a dead friend. While it's a sad sight, these two are still raiders, and it's more than likely they subjected others to this same fate without a second thought. You can see this easily on the first few encounters with them, or even exploring some settlements that suffered the misfortune of being visited by them. This tragic scene doesn't excuse their actions, but it is a reminder that raiders aren't monsters. They're people. Evil people, but still people. Also, there's more to it than meets the eye. It is very uncommon, and maybe around the Commonwealth you will find this scene only a couple of times, but it actually has some variations of this scene. For example, you can find one in a similar spot that is mourning a person dead next to him. If you're stealthy enough or lucky enough to not be spotted, you can hear it say, "I hate when they beg. It's just you and me, nothing personal," and that he hopes that the next one dies clean. A cool surprise that honestly doesn't add anything substantially new, but shows a layer of emotions that, if my memory serves right, the local raiders never show, as they are plastered as cold blood killers that maintain their style of life by robbing, killing, and using different substances, and they are consistent with this personality through the saga. With that said, what would you say if I told you that you can meet a pre-war crew ghoulified? The FMS Northern Star. The Commonwealth is full of adventures and diverse biomes, people, enemies, and locations, but without a doubt, this is one of the most unique, as not many ships can be explored even around the saga, and talking about sailing over the ocean, well, that will be a dream for a while. Okay, directions first. You are adventuring as always and walking around along the coast, more specifically north of Poseidon Energy, and south of Warwick Homestead will take you to the heart of this secret. Here lies the rusting hull of the HMS Northern Star. Just like all of the massive shipwrecks littering the Commonwealth, this is more or less a hulking symbol of pre-war commercial power. It has somehow not decayed into rust powder. Important to remember that after all, this was blown up by a nuclear bomb, and 200 years of decay add to the mix that marvelously hasn't blown away in the wind despite spending 2 centuries exposed to the elements. To put a plus on the exploration, it is common to find more than contextual stories. You can find better weapons, gear of sorts, books, or the classics now on the Saga bobbleheads. So yeah, the bonus here, and if you are one avid explorer, then you will have already been here looking for the agility bobblehead. Very useful. And also, many of you in classic Fallout gameplay will have dropped the gun arsenal on the half a dozen ghoul raiders living there without a second thought. I don't blame you, I did the same the first time. However, by chance, or maybe you are just more perceptive among the common players, then you may have noticed these are not normal raiders. They have a bit of peculiar characteristics. For starters, instead of the usual bloodthirsty taunts, the yelling and normal sounds, if you can say that about a raider, these types of raiders yell in an unfamiliar language that after a bit of investigation, or maybe you can identify Norwegian, I don't know, but speaks that language, or they try at least. The context shows us that the Northern Star was a Norwegian cargo ship that ran aground, presumably after the bombs killed its power, and the ghouls are what survived of the crew 200 years later. For the curious like me, when translated, the ghouls are actually saying, "Leave us alone, you shouldn't have come here," and multiple equivalents. They contrast a bit with the actual behavior that they have, but okay, dude, I got it. Stop attacking me. This is actually kind of sad, and at the same time, we don't get an option if we enter here. But remember that the great god Howard still intends for you to kill them, so making you feel a bit bad is unnegotiable. Gameplay-wise, the game labels them as raiders after all, and they will absolutely not hesitate to take potshots at your settlers in Warwick if they wander a little too close. So just see this as a tiny curiosity and do yourself a favor, go and get that bobblehead. It's not a secret, and I think that we all know that the mannequins are hiding something, but seeing some of them in a haunted ship? The mannequin ship? We are now on uncharted territory. Remember the DLCs of Fallout 4? Some hidden gems are here, and some of the creepiest are on Far Harbor. Deep under the murky water of Far Harbor, a sunken boat is lying on the seabed, with not much, and that is logical to be fair, but what we actually have are, for example, a handful of skeletons, some containers, and oh yeah, I almost forget, a whole lot of mannequins. So what terrifying environmental story have our favorite Uncanny Valley inducers cooked up this time? Brace yourselves. As the player approaches the ship, a special kind of event will happen. Mannequins will slowly float up around you, slowly ascending to the surface. If that creeps you out, you can distract yourself from the plastic rapture by entering the cargo hold of the ship itself, but don't think you can escape, as you are being greeted by even more malevolent modeling statues staring at you through the many portholes. In my opinion, one of the most disturbing zones in the game. There's no loot, no bobbleheads, no guns, no nothing, just bones, plastic, and a singular note. Should you be so inclined, you can read the waterlogged for 2 centuries paper page, which was scrawled by a crew member who noted strange noises coming from the cargo hold. Yeah, this place holds a story even after 200 years has passed. He assumes it's the crew pranking him, but with the note being on the floor next to a skeleton, over which stands a mannequin holding a board weapon, we can make our own conclusions. Also assuming that the mannequins in this world are a whole different beast than any display of clothes. But talking only for my conclusion. That's enough swimming for today. For the next, how about a history lesson? Cool, right? The Lone Red Seat. Finally getting as far away from the water as we could. Our next destiny takes us to Diamond City, that big objective we get on the first few hours of game, and that remains mysterious with all that it can offer. Also, as we all know, the settlement is built inside Fenway Park. One of the tiniest nods that we can find here, and what makes it cool, is that far fewer know about it than the average secret or reference in the game. We are talking about the Lone Red Seat. Not much secret there, is, as the name implies, a chair in the stands that's been painted a bright cherry red to sharply contrast with the dark green of the other seats. Why is this the case? Well, hardcore baseball fans and historians might already know. I didn't know either, but whatever. I'll break it down for the rest of you. In 1946, Ted Williams of the Red Sox hit the longest home run in the park's history, sending a ball 502 feet into the stands and knocking a fan's hat off, nothing short of a miracle surviving that without any important damage. As a reminder of that epic event, the seat of said fan was later painted a bright red to commemorate the historical moment. A small nod, but a detail that is present, and for that, cheers cheers to the devs. Love and behold, looking into Diamond City's right stands, the lone red seat stands alone. Gameplay-wise, you can't get to it. It's simply a nice little Easter egg for those few who know the park's history, a small reward for those that are fans of something and happen to meet a nod to your interests. Just don't tell Mo Cronin about it. He'll probably think it's red from all the blood of the champions who claimed it and sell it off as a shield or something. Yeah, classic move. Now a surprise test. What is the first thing that happens at the start of the game? Deadeye. Answering the question is a bit tricky, isn't it? But yeah, follow me on this. Remember at the start of the game how Nate's practicing his speech for the Veterans Hall in the mirror? Yeah, me neither, but I tried. Okay, now we bounce to where the game kicks off. If you actually go to Fraternal Post 115, you'll encounter a very unique enemy, and this enemy is actually a fan of the Diamond City radio. Strange but cool detail. Deadeye is the name and is the leader of the super mutant warband living there. He can be found sitting on a couch in the main hall, quietly listening to Diamond City radio, but the trick lies here. He is listening. Now think about how that is relationed to being called Deadeye. He gets his name from his eyesight, or more correctly, lack of it, as he is completely blind with a rag tied around his head. This also affects the gameplay as you can and should try to approach him. He won't see you coming, but he absolutely will hear you. Or that depends on your sneak. Nah, just kidding. He actually starts an interaction when you're really near him, maybe with a stealth boy. But yeah, he will 100% spot you at some point, and this will start the interaction. Not everything is a fight right from the bat. He will shout at you to screw off, and should you fail to do this in a timely manner, he'll raise the alarm and all the other discount Shreks will come running, and trust me, they are a quite big pack. So yes, violence is avoidable, but this is post-nuclear Boston. Violence isn't the answer, it's the question, and the answer is always. Still, a small detail besides the encounter is that if you manage to sneak one shot at him, near his body you will find a switch. If you, for mere curiosity, activate it, the other super mutants will spawn just the same if he catches you twice sneaking around. These types of encounters are interesting, but what about encountering old pals? Care to learn how? The Lost Neighbors. During the intro sequence, we're shown that Nate lives in the nice part of the area with lots of neighbors, a family, our buddy Coldsworth and that. Yeah, we played the game maybe, you think. Well then, 2 centuries later, he has noticeably fewer neighbors. Yeah, I understand the surprise, but trust me. However, wander around long enough and you'll experience a very unwanted reunion. Remember that at this point you are a little dude learning about the wasteland, so any enemy can put serious damage on you. Basically, you will be swarmed by a pack of feral ghouls. Fairly normal for a Wednesday on the Commonwealth, I know. Well, except for the small, almost imperceptible detail about these ferals having names, those names being, you guessed it, many of your old neighbors. This doesn't surprise anyone to this point, but turns out that not everyone was lucky enough to get flash cooked by the bombs, and now it falls to you to euthanize the angry nuke zombies. Fair enough, they attacked first. Maybe you weren't the cool neighbor that everyone liked as you used to think. Oh well, Mrs. Sumter can't be mad at you for tearing down her house to make room for that ammo press now, or putting a fashionable new barrier with a bed for your survival run. Hey, I remembered something. A pirate hideout area is in the game. Well, sort of. Libertalia. Libertalia is a massive raider camp built on the half-sunk wreck of a cargo freighter with a massive armada of small boats and barge platforms tied together to form a veritable fortress. Turns out that it was settled by ex-Minutemen? Yeah, the initial faction of classic good guys and everything that we hate about the settlements. So, as normally any one of them would do, they initially tried to be civil with the neighbors, but desperation and other sort of circumstances, like a bad plan from the beginning, turned them to banditry. For the moment we meet them, well, they are basically indistinguishable from other raiders, with their biggest crime being that we can't turn it into a proper settlement after it's cleared, and oh boy, what a cool spot to make a new settlement. Now the interesting detail here is that Libertalia was based off a supposedly real place, and the name means more than just that, a name. Back in the 1700s, a pirate named James Mission built a small colony off the coast of Madagascar. For those times it was a pirate utopia, where people could be free from the various empires that were carving up the world. This place was, of course, called Libertalia. However, talking about real life, despite multiple attempts, this supposed colony was never discovered, and it most likely never existed to begin with, or was that good that remained hidden up to this day. We will never know. Now for Let's Review a section of tiny glimpses that deserve to be discovered, Tiny Details Collection. The Prost Bar, now it's off to Boston Commons. After a long few minutes of getting your bell rung by Swan, you can limp down to the Prost for a quick drink. Now, for the approximate 2 80s kids watching. This bar is one-to-one modeled with the Cheers bar, from the sitcom of the same name. Yeah, I remember it for some internet memes, but my point stands. From the layout of the building exactly matching, to the positions of the skeletons mimicking the characters, to the name Prost, translating from German to mean cheer. I can safely say this little Easter egg made a lot of fans a little nostalgic. Consider yourself lucky if this made you smile. smile a bit, because the next thing that happened is that smile disappearing and then feel old, because that show's like 30-40 years old now. Oh, the sorrow. The top room. If you're anything like me, you too were disappointed by the home plate player home. Thankfully, this doesn't end here. Walk down the road to the right of the Diamond City gate, enter the junkyard on the right, splatter some mongrels, a classic morning to this point, and then climb up the building. There should be a rubble ramp facing the city, assuming you have a jetpack or incredible parkour skills, a bomb or something, then fly across. If you have a bit of hands and luck, you don't slam and have enough psychojet to kill a horse, continue the parkour across to the neighboring roofless building, and then across to the stadium. You'll find yourself in a brand new player home, complete with a bed, power armor station, and a housewarming gift in the form of a mini-nuke. This was supposed to be part of a proper quest, with the room as a reward, but it was cut from the finished game. There's a lot of things like this one. So, a really lost opportunity to not recover all the cut content in new relaunchments, and so here it stands, a safe little place to store your excess power armor where Trashcan Carla can't steal it. And oh boy, I felt great discovering this place the first time, as I was expecting nothing, only a swift death, as I landed with my head to the ground when my power armor depleted the core. Cricket. Cricket is one of many merchants who can be found wandering between the various settlements. Most likely, most people don't remember her. They do, however, remember the Spray and Pray, an explosive shot submachine gun that could be considered an unofficial cheat code with how effective it is provided you spec into the right perks. And oh boy, the fun that it is using what means a god power of exploding what you aim to. However, there is one other notable detail about Cricket, and a really obscure one. She's an Institute informant. Yep, now everything falls into place, isn't it? She's on the Institute's payroll, constantly feeding them information from all the settlements she visits. So, no, she didn't like you or anything of the sort that made her visit you 3 times a week. To be fair, she doesn't actively hurt anyone, but you can argue that she's indirectly guilty of any and all harm the Institute causes with the information she provides, and that also is very much correct. In my books, is far from innocent. So, if you're a friend of the underground science bois, good news for you or not news at all. The problem is, if not, I don't know, boycott her or something, or a cool tip, use that cool submachine for testing purposes on her. Hawthorne. In Diamond City, a man named Hawthorne can be found in the Dugout Inn. He's not part of any quest. He has no greater story in the game, but what he does have are stories of his travels. He's been all over the Commonwealth and beyond, but there's one place he adamantly refuses to go, and that is Salem, a small town on the northeast of the map. This place was the scene of the infamous Salem witch trials, and yes, nowadays it sits largely empty, but Hawthorne still refuses to enter it, as something about it just horrifies him. Yeah, bud, if a town had a death claw in the museum, I'd be horrified too. But to be honest, I would have preferred to see something more substantial. In all seriousness, it's never explained why Hawthorne's so averted to the town to begin with, but there is a theory. One of the most prominent, and by far one of the most brutal judges during the trials, was Judge Nathaniel Hawthorne. So yeah, I think the cat is out of the bag. Cedo? Alright, Nuka World time. One of the many parks in the sprawling area is the Safari Zone, with its only human resident being a man named Cedo. This dude was the son of local scavengers who were killed by super mutants when he was young, being raised by gorillas from one of the attractions. Yep, we got a post-nuclear Tarzan here. Strange but cool, and the similarities seem intentional. The last line in the note left by Ceto's mother asks whoever finds it to take care of him, and that they would always be with him in his heart, a reference to one of the songs from the Disney classic, so that closes the circle. It wasn't by chance. Tess. Across the Commonwealth, telephone poles line every road and cross every field. They stand as a symbol, both of the power of the old world and of the powerlessness of the new one, and apparently they stand for references too. Upon closer inspection, the metal plates mounted on the poles read TES-04, and this, of course, is a reference to the Elder Scrolls, Bethesda's other massive IP. They did the same thing in Fallout 3, and it can be expected that they will continue to do so moving forward in the series. Codsworth. We all know and love Codsworth. He is the Mr. Handy companion that has lived with you even before the war. You meet him at your old house near the vault that you emerge from, making the odds of him being the first companion that you actually meet. He has a lot of details hidden, but we will focus on 2 tiny ones that not most people had met before. The first one is that he has a serious probability of saying your name. Yeah, the custom name. Why do you ask? He has nearly 1,000 pre-recorded names that he can say, so if the player character name is on his files, you got lucky. If not, then stick to being called Dad, Mom, Sir, or if you got the right idea when you named your your sole survivor, named Dragonborn, he is voice 2. If you're out of luck, then stick to the generic title. Now it's time to talk about one of the biggest secrets of the game that, sadly as big as it is, still remains as only a way of creeping us out a detail and nothing more: the mannequins. It's no secret that the mannequins are watching you at every step you take. A lot of things show it without actually nobody addressing it. For example, all the posed mannequins that sometimes are staring at the exact spot you're on. Like, what is the probability? Bethesda made this as a curious Easter egg, but can also be an accidental mystery. One of the creepiest of the game, if you let me say so. What makes it a small detail through the game is the mannequins themselves are only there to creep you out and maintain you with the feet on the earth, as you cannot exactly fight them. For example, you enter any building in the Commonwealth, and in some of them, the vast majority also, there's some mannequins, but the problem is the poises they have. Like, they have a life and just freeze when you're around, exactly like Toy Story. For example, sitting at dinner tables or hanging around other mannequins or even dead bodies, sleeping in a bed, if you could call it that, into bathtubs or in a sort of party, like they were dancing and you entered at the most crucial moment, is disturbing to say the least. You can sort them out as being a cursed prank by some raiders gang looking for scaring the hell out of their victims or something like that. I don't know. But this theory is easily destroyed, as you can encounter mannequins in strange positions even on sealed rooms or zones like vaults. Remember that the mannequins are at least 200 years old, so no reason for them to be there without a disturbing reference. And that will remain a mystery, as we have a lot of examples that reference impossible human interaction with the mannequins, and still they are in impossible positions. And those were some of the best tiny details that Fallout 4 has to offer. If you want to see Fallout 4 biggest secrets, click on the video on the screen.